So what you're saying is ultimately like it's not that the strongly held belief, if you will, isn't that everybody would be better off if they went to college. It's that it sounds like it's more that there is a portion of the population who would benefit from going to college, but perhaps the current environment, and again, perhaps for good reason to some extent, there's people that would benefit that are choosing not to go, or at least being influenced not to go. And you think that's a disservice, right? There's certain people
Yeah,
who it makes perfect sense for them not to go, and that's cool. Do them. That's all good. It makes sense. But for those people who either have an aspiration where that would be beneficial, or frankly, they're just the type of person where it might help them for all the reasons we said before, that transformative experience, they're not doing it. And you feel like they're worse off. Maybe even society's worse off because of that. Is that kind of how you see it?
yeah, and I think in life, there's a Goliath that everyone has to face,
Hmm.
and I think your desire to avoid it because you're fearful of it. It's like you're leaning on this fear of failing, right? And I think failing is a part of the process in order to succeed. So what's going to happen is if you're resistant to this because you don't want to fail, then that sort of pattern of behavior would then transfer to everything else that you do or you attempt to do that isn't working. So I feel like in life you have to embrace the suck,
Hmm.
right? And I say this too because it's the same thing. And as a person that works out and trains, it's the same thing.
Hmm.
You want results, you want to be better at something, you have to take on the challenge of dealing with it. And by you avoiding it because there's this one aspect of it that you don't quite understand or that you don't feel you're built for, avoiding it doesn't do you justice.
Hmm.
And like I said, I understand the concept of the debt of going to school, but I'm saying the person that you can become will justify the debt that you got into in order for you to then be in a place of where you are now to help tackle other things that you need.
Hmm.
Like I look at myself an example, and I'm saying I can imagine what if I didn't take the philosophy class? Like how would I view the world now? Probably not in the same lens that I view it now, but I took on the challenge, I embraced the challenge, and in that, I was surrounded, and I didn't do this alone. You're surrounded with other like-minded individuals that have a desire and ability to learn. And iron sharpen iron. You get around people that have this desire to want to push one another. There's something that happens there that I think we all need when it comes to having the type of friendships and people that are around us to help us get there.
Hmm.
But none of us have to do this alone. There's always someone there in any course, and I don't know about you, any class you enter into, you meet somebody that is like-minded, and to some extent, there's a relationship that happens there. Like all these things happen in the college environment, and that's what I'm saying. It's this core relationship, whether it's group studying, whether it's missing a day, and you know a buddy that had the notes for that day because you couldn't make it. There's something about that experience through 4 years that I think is completely different. And the relationships and the networking that happens after you leave, right? There's still like a core. There's a value to saying that I knew this individual that I took this class with. We left this situation much better off than we were, and then being able to recall and to talk about those things, I think, has all the value in the world when it comes
Hmm.
to going through an experience like a college education.
All right, so let me hit you with three. This isn't meant to be exhaustive, but at least from where I sit, and maybe you have others. Three of the most common reasons I think people would push back on college being as prevalent as it's been, or at least what you're suggesting that more people should be talking it up or going to it. I think the three of the most common reasons today, one we've already hit on, is the debt, right? And we could talk about that, and we should. We can go through each three, and not just the debt, literally in the sense that like you have a potentially a 17, 18-year old who's potentially signing up for hundreds of $1,000s worth of debt that they're now going to have for the rest of their life, but they're doing it perhaps because of greed and institutions that are just taking advantage of them, right? So that's one, right? There's that view. Um, I think there's another view that for some kids, like it's just a party. Like they go there and hang out and they have a good time and they drink and all the things you're saying, although in theory are nice, for many kids, that's actually not happening. That's not what actually happens at college. It's more of just a free for all and they have a good time. The last one, which is maybe the most debatable, but is very prevalent today, is that college is doing a disservice to our kids through education, right? This kind of there's a view, I'll just say because it's a view some people have, like there's like a progressive liberal agenda that's being taught at colleges and kids are being indoctrinated, and it's become kind of this ivory tower of professors teaching things that's not real life and that type of thing. From at least
Mhm,
my experience, those are probably the three most common things I've heard people say as to why, if they're a parent, they don't want to send their kid to college, or if they're a kid, perhaps they don't want to go to college, whatever. So
mhm.
maybe start with either any of those you want, but like, how do you think about, are they valid? Is there any credence to those? Are there things that are worth discussing and considering in those? Or do you still think, no, my belief still holds even in spite of those?